like everybody else, I do have yarn goals for 2026. And just so you're aware, this is a 3-video series that all dropped at the same time today. So you can watch them all in succession, save them, spread them out however you wish to choose to do them. But I felt like doing one monster video would have been a 2-hour ordeal extravaganza. So I'm going to split it up a little bit, and then you have the choice if you want to continue to watch or not. The other 2 companion videos are going to be linked at the very end of this video. So let's get into my goals, because we'll talk about in one of those videos at the end about how I did on my 2025 goals.
Stitch is gonna stitch, we don't miss a loop. Pull that thread tight, join the crochet troop.
For now, that's going to kind of shape how I'm doing my 2026 goals. And I learned that I need to really pare back and not have 18 or whatever, however many goals that I had set for myself in 2025, because anyway, I am probably going to stick to about 4 or 5 overarching goals and some little sub goals in between. The main thing that really stuck out to me, because I was sitting down doing other personal goals and everything else like that, I tried to set myself a relatively strict budget last year, and I at least doubled it. I don't think I quite tripled it, but that $400 did not last long. And my thought was, at the time, I was going to do, $100 every quarter will get me roughly a sweater's quantity on sale of like a Knit Picks or Premier or any of those types of yarns. The more somewhat budget-friendly yarns, but have enough room that if it wants to be a little bit nicer of a yarn, I could do that. And then a few months into the year, it was gone. I think it was like at least halfway through the year, the $400 was gone. And some of it was like sales and then Joann's closing and things like that. But I really, really want to buckle down and try not to spend anything on yarn this year. And I'm toying around with the idea of, if I hit certain financial goals, will I allow myself to purchase yarn on Black Friday and have like a little bit of money set aside for that? Do I want to just keep it down to just one sweater or blanket quantity of yarn up to $150 for the entire year? And it would have to be something like, it's a yarn I really want and it's about to be discontinued, and all of those things that would make me really evaluate, do I want this yarn? So a lot of it is just curbing my spending. Another part of it that might actually outweigh the spend a little bit in my mind is, I have a lot of stash, like a lot of other crocheters and knitters. It's a lot. It's also extremely beautiful, and I do love it, and I'm always going to do someday, or that I need to find the perfect thing and make it like the most best extra special thing for this special yarn, or that I have this memory tied to. And it's like, no, make it something with it so that you can just freaking enjoy it already, because otherwise, like, it's just going to keep sitting and not doing me any bit of good. So that leads into the great 2026 stash down. And I don't even feel like I'm trying to get through stash for the sake of getting through stash and diminishing it. It is more for the purpose of enjoying what I already have, and being grateful and thankful for what I already have. So that is really going to be the tone of this year, is great stash down 2026. Even so far as, if you're new to the channel, I spoke a lot of times last year where if I was doing a gift crochet or knit project, that if I need to purchase yarn for that need, then that didn't count towards any of my stash spend. And I still agree with that principle in general, because I would still probably purchase something else for that person up to the amount of whatever the yarn spend was, maybe even more, honestly. So, but I do want to challenge myself as much as possible for my gift crafts, crochets, and knits, that I will try as much to pull from stash as I can. The first gift, it's a gift crochet. I almost said knit, and someone was going to be like, it's not knitting. But anyway, sorry. That's such a pet peeve I have about, like, if someone doesn't know, like, the difference between crochet and knitting, please let it go. Sorry if you've already heard that rant before, but anyway. So the first crochet project that is for gifting is for my brother. He wants one of the hand style cactuses that's posable. So I'm reasonably sure that if I look through my acrylic, I should have yarn to complete that cactus without having to purchase anything. The only thing I would have to purchase are to make it bend. So I am planning on using, they're the foam rollers from Dollar Tree that they come in different thicknesses or whatever. So once I get to the point before I go to stuff the hand, then I'll go to Dollar Tree and make that kind of judgment call of which of the sponge kind of foam rollery things that I can stick into each finger and the thumb, and he can pose it in the way that any guy would. So that's really the only gift project that I have immediately planned, because I also am trying to rein in my finances a little bit. Not just the fact that I want to, if I think of a gift, pull from stash. I'm wondering if I can go so far as, if I start early enough so I'm not stressed out in November, December, can I use stash to make all of my Christmas presents with very minimal spend? That is going to be a huge challenge, and I might get sick of it at some point and not want to make anything for anybody else. I recognize that is a thing that could happen, but it's something that with this great 2026 stash down that I do want to challenge myself to do is, the money is already spent. And if I think of the value of the yarn, like, it's in gift giving range. It's not me, like, being cheap, because if you are someone who's not new to the channel, I value my free time. So that is actually really expensive. So the fact that I would be willing to do that for my family in lieu of going out and spending money on stuff that they, might sit on a shelf and might just turn into junk eventually anyway. And I know that pretty much everybody in my immediate family would super appreciate hand knits and hand crocheted items. So that is the main reason why, is because it actually is more of a challenge of the money's already spent. We can girl math it, whatever. It's not even about, it's about that. It's about me being resourceful this year, more on the financial side. So I do have a resourcefulness video that I am planning on doing very soon, hopefully by the end of January. If not, it will be early February. I'm trying to, I don't want to say make up for not making videos in December. It was so frustrating to not have my voice when I wanted to, like, just talk to you and tell you about all the stuff that I'm planning and how my year went and everything like that. Moving into, like, similar, again, these are kind of going into that, the 2026 goals with that great stash down, is I do have quite a lot of sweater/blanket quantity of yarn. So I think this year is going to be the year of sweaters, whether it is knit or crocheted. I do want to get a few crocheted ones in there. The ones that jump out to me most immediately are going to be the ranunculus, which technically I did swatch for. I didn't put it in my my yarn year wrapped, which is going to be one of the other videos at the end that you can go ahead and click on and watch that if you haven't already. I didn't mention that I swatched it because I didn't actually start the project, because I needed to order needle tips that I didn't have. So that I did not put a budget on, where if I need supplies that are not yarn, because those tend not to be the issue. It tends to be the yarn that is the issue. And if I'm going to do this stash down, I don't want to be limited by, I can't get gauge because I don't have this thing. So I'm in that process right now. I'm just waiting on those needle tips that should really be here any day at this point. I can't remember if I saw the mail truck or not, so I might have to go it's kind of like in that like in-betweeny time of like maybe they've come and maybe they've not come. That's why I was like looking at the clock on the wall. So they might be there, hopefully. If not, it's fine. So that, and then the other yarn spend is that I'm going to allow myself is I might need more yarn to finish that. If that is the case, I will allow myself to, not just for the ranunculus, but for any other project that is already a WIP. Then if I need something to finish it, I'm not going to not finish it and have it looming over if it's just a matter of a little bit more of a yarn spend. And then instead of that being a yarn budget, that's going to come out of my fun money or like spending money for the month. So I'm going to be extremely ruthless on that. So ranunculus is probably going to be the next sweater. I don't know. It kind of depends because the other two sweaters that I really, really want to do, one is the Eros sweater, or Eros jumper. It's sweater jumper. The Eros jumper by Jessie Makes, or Jessie Made. I so terrible. Like, it's like I hear it all the time, but then when I actually go to say it, I'm like, I know this person. So I did print off the pattern for that. That was the other thing I was not going to limit myself on this year, was going to be patterns again, because of that's not my problem area of spending when it comes to knitting and crocheting. It is the yarn for sure. So I did go ahead and print off that. And I was like, this is another like choose your own adventure thing. And I'm really at the point where I'm just trying to figure out what color combinations I want. So those are like the first two in my mind. But then also there's a crochet dolman sleeve sweater. It's like dolman is like the kind that it's not a full bat wing, but it has a nice swoop. It's just always been something that like there was one day like 5 or 6 years ago where I just like tried one on secondhand. It was a short sleeve version. And I was like, actually, this is really flattering on my body type for some reason. And it is one that, you know, gaining and losing weight, it's a little bit more forgiving of a, you know, shape on that. So I do want to do those. Those are the three, like top three I want to do. I also want to do something with the yellow yarn that I sort of claimed as my color of the year, my yarn tone color of the year 2026. I just haven't found a pattern that's struck out to me. Part of me also wonders if I'm like overly limiting myself to like single color sweaters, and maybe I need to like, okay, what else could I do that? Because I do have some other blown yarns around the same thickness that maybe I could pair with it. I definitely don't want to make anything with the yellow and the pink together, because then I'll feel like an Easter peep, and no, that's just a little bit too much for me. So those are going to be probably the next couple of, you know, projects that are going to get started. And I've already started looking at and swatching for and trying to decide where I'm going with those. And then, of course, if you saw my Yarn Year Wrapped video, you saw I did make a pretty decent dent in all of the old WIPs. So last year I started out with a 36 long-term unfinished projects, works in progress that had just been all over the house. I was pulling them from closets, from corners, from another room, or I set it down on top of my desk in my office or put it in that closet. Like, it was just absolute insanity where I was finding all these projects. So I started out with 36, and that was counting the last thing that my grandmother had worked on before she had passed. I took that away throughout the year, and that would make it 35, except that then as I was pulling out yarn for something else, found a half finished pair of gloves. So 36. It still stayed 36, even taking away what my grandmother had worked on before she'd passed. And then that will be its own separate thing, because that is not just me finishing it. It's me deciding to learn how to left-handed crochet. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. My mom, I was actually shocked that she suggested this, because I don't know why I was, but she's like, well, why don't you just rip it out and start it all over? And I was like, that's probably the faster, smarter play. I don't disagree with her on that. To me, it was more about I wanted to work on the same thing that she worked on, number one. Number two, I do feel like there would be a lot of value in me learning how to crochet left-handed. So I thought that would be fun and interesting. So that's not the goal this year. That is, if it happens, it happens. If not, it doesn't. So I do still want to work on the remaining whips. And so that means there are 20 left, which means I got through 16 is not bad. I really thought I could get through more of them. I probably could have. Realistically, there were times where I was a little bit in a slump, or I just wasn't really crocheting or knitting that quickly, or I just wanted to work on new stuff. So like, that's fine. I don't want to not start stuff too much. I still want to give myself the like fun of start-itis, a little start-itis, not like, let's do 10 projects. Let's just get that dopamine hit of like the beginning of 1 or 2 new projects here and there sprinkled in with finishing. There are 9 that I am still going to keep and finish, and 11 that still need to be frogged. And so I thought that was probably extremely doable, especially when most of it is frogging. And I do like having those for crochet and chats, but I might also get to, frog and chats, uncrocheting. But I might just go ahead and, if I'm in a mood one day, sitting and watching TV, I might just start ripping out stuff. I also have said that before, and that has not happened because I tend to forget that bag exists because I put it in a room that I don't go into very often. So, that's all. And then my biggest goal for this year is tackling that 4th bedroom that I wanted to turn into my craft room, like make it like a little bit of a den, cozy haven. And the part of me that's really frustrating about that room is I did have it male's hair, so guess I didn't see it already, and so I'll have to check that here in a little bit. But I had that room like almost completely like nothing in it. And what had happened was I had the organizers that they were in. They were vinyl sweater organizers. And Queso was a very determined when he was a kitten, he was very determined when he wanted to play with yarn and just rip through them. And so then at one point I'm like, well, let me take them out of the closet. And since this room is empty, I can just lay them on the floor. And, when I come up with a solution, it'll be fine. And then it didn't stop there. And then I bought more stash and shoved that in the room. And then, other stuff that's not at all craft or yarn related stuff that I'd had boxed up for 2 years that I said I'm going to do yard sale. So I'm at the point now where that stuff's just going to go to a local auction yard at this point, because clearly I'm not going to find the right combination of weather is perfect, energy is up, and I don't have any other schedule conflicts to have a yard sale. After 2 years, if it hasn't happened, that's what's going to, I don't know. I actually contemplated throwing it out, and it was just because my sister-in-law made a comment about, well, if we're going to help my mom clean out some of her stuff too, let's take it to the auction yard and at least get a little something for it. And I was like, that's actually a really great idea. So I might do that with my stuff. And it's probably not going to be a ton of money, but it's something, and it's on the way to my dad's house anyway. So it's not a big deal to drop off lots of things. It's going to be a lot of things, but lots, chunks of types of things that can all go together. So that is where that is at. That is my biggest goal, probably, is getting that to a point where it is my cozy knit and crochet nook that I don't have to close off. Ideally, I don't have to close off from the cats. That has probably been the biggest challenge, is trying to come up with a storage solution that the cats will not get into the yarn, because Madeline loves yarn. If she sees it a mile away, she's gonna try to get to it. Milo will play with yarn once she starts playing with it, so then they'll just be, doing that with each other. So I just don't know what the solution is, and I can still at least make progress of cleaning up the stuff that doesn't belong in that room then. But then eventually I want that to be my little crochet and knitting nook world, filming, have a little dedicated space for that, that you and I can hang out in and just kind of enjoy our time. I still have my old TV in there. It's like a 42-ish inch TV. And my thought on that was I was actually going to mount that and then instead of being able to watch TV in that room, which I will be able to, but I want it to be more like the YouTube videos of fireplace background, just for like the real ambiance and the crackling, and like I want that to be my super cozy little corner. It's not even the corner of the house, but my little area in the house away from the world that I can just work on craft projects and talk to my craft friend. That is it for the goals. I'm not doing a gazillion. I'm really trying to keep it as simple as possible. And anything else then that happens throughout the year is just bonus. And so I didn't even really set myself any channel goals. I don't know if you noticed that I did set some last year. I'm not doing that this year. I really still want this to still be fun. Yes, I'm making a little bit of money off of YouTube. It's not a lot. I have also kicked around doing what I made on YouTube in 2025 as a small channel. So I'm happy to do that if anyone is interested in that. And if you missed my Yarn Year Wrapped video that I mentioned, you can go ahead and check it out right over here. Otherwise, if you haven't yet watched me reacting to my 2025 goals, that video is going to be linked right here. And I can't wait to visit with you in the next one. Bye.